So, real quick, have y'all seen the video where the dad is kind of coming on social media letting us know his grievances pretty much with the mothers in his child's school because they will not allow their daughters to participate in a sleepover at his house? This is a single father who is upset because he wants to throw a slumber party for his daughter. He did not mention the little girl's age. I did not dig deeper into it, but real quick, let's watch the clip.
So, like, last year, I was trying to throw my daughter, like, a slumber party. And once again, no woman lives in the household. It's just me and my daughter. And, like, I communicated with one of the mothers, like, just to see if she can get the ball rolling because she know a bunch of more mothers and whatnot. And then I asked, do she feel comfortable having... And as I was talking, she straight up interrupted me. No, I don't feel comfortable with that at all. And like I said, because I'm a man, and she was honest, and I respect her honesty. She was like, yes. And I'm like, that really did make me feel some type of way. So I expressed my, not even frustration. I was really sad. And I expressed that with other women. And they was like, well, Mark Anthony, you got to see where she coming from, and blah, 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 this and that and whatnot. And I do understand like where women coming from, but it just hurt my feelings to know that me, just as a man, I get labeled as that. And like I would never do nothing like that to I would never do nothing like that to kids, because like when I was growing up, like it was a situation, like I try to make jokes about it and whatnot, and like long story short, it happened to me, but by a woman. And I just remember that feeling as I got older, and when I was younger, I would never do that to a child. And just know that like I couldn't even throw my daughter like a slumber party is because like they think I'ma do what somebody did to me, which was a woman, by the way. And like that shit made me damn near like cry for real, bro, because I'm just trying to like have my daughter, but that shit just made me really feel some type of way.
Okay, so this is going pretty much semi-viral around a lot of spaces on social medias, TikTok, Facebook picked it up. I'm not sure if it's on Instagram. I don't really be over there on Instagram like that. But yeah, so I want to know people's thoughts because I found something very interesting. So we watched the first clip. The father, who is a single father of this young daughter, he wants to throw this little girl a sleepover party for her birthday. Understandable. Little girls love sleepovers. My best friend, that's all she used to ever talk about. Sleepover party, sleepover party, sleepover party, and that was the thing. I went to a couple of sleepover parties as a kid, no big deal. And a lot of the time, there were men in the house, but there were also women there. So this man's thing is, he said his feelings were hurt because pretty much he brought it up to one of the mothers to see if she could get the word out. And he asked her if she would feel comfortable with her daughter attending the sleepover, with him being there as a single father and being, I guess, like the, sole chaperone. And she immediately cut him off and said no. And that hurt his feelings. And he expressed that, he was upset. It made him feel some type of way because as a child, he had been abused, and it had been by a woman. So he kind of felt, I guess, disrespected that he as a man could be seen in that light. So there's just a lot of mixed feelings going on right now on social media. And I think there's something very interesting that personally I would like to talk about. So let's watch this next clip from a young lady who's expressing her opinion about the backlash that the man received for pretty much coming to us about his feelings being hurt, that the woman did not feel comfortable with her daughter being there. So let's watch that.
Y'all can be mean and cruel as hell. That man is genuinely sad because he's a single father and he want to have his daughter asleep over, y'all. He was just expressing his feelings to y'all and y'all went ballistic. The man is a single father. It's sad for him and his daughter because, of course, the little girl would want to have a sleepover. she's a little girl. All little girls want to have a sleepover, but she can't do what she would like to do because she have a dad and not a mom. And it's not fair. It's not fair to him. His feelings is hurt. Y'all just so mean, and y'all are negative Nancy's. Like, no, I wouldn't let my daughter go either. But the point is, he ain't y'all get on here bashing him because he expressed his feelings about that, because his feelings is hurt because his daughter can't have what she want because he's a single father. Y'all dead wrong for that. And I don't like how y'all get on the internet and do that to people. For real, y'all just be dead wrong. And it's like, if I was the mama that he would have asked, I would have said, how about I host a sleepover for your daughter? You know what I'm saying? How about you just pay for everything and we have a sleepover at my house, because girls' moms will be way more comfortable there. You know what I'm saying? Instead of trying to help him, y'all trying to tear that man down. Like, and it's so crazy because a lot of men not even hands-on with their kids. A lot of men wouldn't even be a single daddy. They'll send their kid on. This man is a single daddy trying to, y'all on the internet bashing him. Y'all just be dead wrong.
Basically, she talks about how people on social media are mean and immediately jump to ostracize this man and make him seem like a bad guy, make him seem like the villain, beating him up. I'm not sure. I haven't really seen those comments. I have seen the post a couple of times. I haven't engaged with it all that much, but on the post that I did engage with it there were a lot of people in support of him. And even the ones that weren't necessarily in support of sending maybe their daughters to a sleepover like that in that circumstance, they had respect for what he was doing. And then there were a lot of them who had the take, which I thought was interesting, which was kind of blaming the mothers of the other daughters for not taking on that responsibility for that little girl. And I definitely want to talk about that a little bit later. However, there were some things that further came to light. If you have more information on this, send me more information. I'm not necessarily digging. This is more so personal, curated content, things that I find. If I do, want to take a deeper dive into things, then we'll definitely do that. But this is more so just kind of putting a conversation out there. So let's take a look at what this gentleman had to say about how, the father reacted. Yeah, let's watch the clip.
Mugshot Mark Anthony, single father and TikToker, is saddened at the fact that women would not allow their daughters to come to his house for a sleepover with his daughter. Mugshot Mark, your feelings are irrelevant here. Mugshot Mark, you were a victim of SA yourself as a child, so I'm actually quite confused at the fact that you would even want to host a sleepover with all females. You know personally that predators are not just men. Predators can be men, women, or even other children. And although you may be a stand-up guy, Mugshot Mark, most parents, myself included, are unwilling to roll the dice with the safety of their little girls. I've been married for almost 20 years. My daughter just turned 17 and she has never been to a slumber party. Our daughter is doing just fine, Mugshot Mark, and I'm sure your daughter will be just fine as well without that experience. A father's duty is to protect his children from dangers seen and unseen, and for that very reason, slumber parties are an automatic no in my household. Like, repost and leave your thoughts in the comments.
Okay, so basically we come to find that this young man has had an arrest in the past for domestic violence and child neglect. Okay, now that thickens the plot just a little bit, doesn't it? And now we're not here to cast judgment on this man to paint him as a bad person, paint him as a predator, or someone who would do anything remotely close to touching kids. We're not putting that in the atmosphere. We don't know this man. I don't know this man. I'm not putting that out there. So what I do find interesting is excuse me. Look at my pants, y'all. My goal is to fit those one day. But what I do find interesting is that exists, right? That is out there. That is public record. Like, somebody just went on there and found it. He obviously didn't show it. Like, somebody found that. So I find it interesting that he had that out there, did not disclose it, but still kind of had, the gall to ask about a sleepover. And now that child endangerment is not good, but it's not being a predator. It's not preying on kids. That's something totally different. So it could have been anything for a child endangerment. You know what I'm saying? Like, it could have been he walked to the store real quick for 15-20 minutes and something happened and somebody called the police and all of a sudden, you know, it's bad. Like, it could have been something simple. So I'm not sitting here trying to condemn him for that. And then some people said that apparently those were false charges. Now, for me personally, false charges don't mean you didn't do it. To me personally, false charges just mean maybe somebody changed their mind, you know, more often than not, especially in a sense or in a circumstance rather of domestic violence. Like, you know what I mean? It just means like y'all made up. So, and again, I'm not putting nothing on this man. I don't know this man. Now what I found most interesting about all of this was not let me go back. I don't think he did anything wrong, first and foremost, by asking or inquiring about a sleepover for his daughter's birthday. I think, and I want to put out there, I would hope that his intentions were in the right place, right? That's what we want to say, because we want to put our best foot forward and lead with positivity. So why would we assume anything negative, right? So that's the thing. We all want to assume that this man had good intentions with asking this and wanting to create this atmosphere for his daughter. We do assume, because we don't hear from the daughter, we assume that she asked for it in the first place, because that's what everybody's saying, that they feel like maybe the people that are attacking the father, they're saying, why would you attack him if he just wants to fulfill his daughter's wishes? So we're simply assuming that the daughter said this. We haven't talked to the daughter. We don't know her. We ain't heard from her. That's okay, but we just don't know. So if we're assuming that that's the case, he did nothing wrong by inquiring to attempt to fulfill that wish. He did nothing wrong by asking a friend or the mother of one of her friends. Also, that mother did nothing wrong by expressing that she was uncomfortable with sending her daughter over there to a sleepover where there would be all little girls and the only adult would be a grown man, right? And now, that said, he said that she went around saying stuff. Now, we don't know what she said. Now, if she went around saying that, you know, he was a predator and he was preying on kids, that's wrong. Because that's not what he said. She would be mixing, or she wouldn't be mixing his words. She would be lying on him. She would be lying. It would be untrue. It would be, you know, defamatory. It just would not be a good thing if that is what happened. If she just went around saying that he was preying on kids. That could have been the truth. People stretch the truth sometimes. People exaggerate, you know, and maybe that's not even what she meant, but maybe that's what came out, and then people took that at face value. And I'm not excusing her. I'm just putting the pieces together. Like me and you, we're working this out like a puzzle. You know what I'm saying? And the thing is, we are Switzerland in all of this. Well, not necessarily Switzerland, but. Well, you know, we're not really judging. Nobody's really judging because he's trying to do the right thing, so we assume. Now, he didn't do anything wrong by asking about the party. She didn't do anything wrong by expressing that she was uncomfortable. If she spread lies, then that is wrong. But we're going to assume that she didn't because we're giving everybody the benefit of the doubt in this story. So if we give her the benefit of the doubt and we assume that she only said, hey, XYZ, this man, whatever his name is, I think his name is Mark. Mark is trying to have a party for his daughter for her birthday, and he wants other little girls to come, though he's going to be the only male chaperone. I personally don't feel comfortable. I said my daughter's not going to be in attendance, but he did tell me to put the word out because he did say that, right? We cannot ignore that he said that because he did. But he did tell me to put the word out. I'm putting the word out. You want to send your daughter, you can send your daughter. I'm not sending my daughter. I feel like that might have been how that conversation went. That was a black man. I am a black woman. I have black sisters and black nieces and a black best friend who has black children. And I feel like, and I had a black mother as well, you know, and I also had a childhood growing up. So I feel like more so that might have been how the conversation went. And again, we're giving everybody the benefit of the doubt here. So let's assume that that's how that went. And other mothers just, they felt the same sense of uneasiness. Just they were just uncomfortable with it, just like her, and they said no. Now, if maybe this is a smaller community of people and they all got each other's information and can contact each other, maybe that was some type of talk of the town, and I can understand how he might have felt attacked. Now, again, if she labeled him a predator, he has every right to feel offended. So that leads into the only thing that I think, I don't necessarily say was wrong, because you're never wrong in having your feelings. No one can ever tell you that your feelings were wrong. They can tell you that they don't agree with your feelings. They can tell you that your feelings might not have been taken into account, when they committed their actions. But nobody can tell you that what you're feeling isn't what you're feeling. They can tell you that they didn't mean to make you feel that way, but they can't tell you that you don't feel how you feel. So if he says he felt hurt, if he says he felt offended, we cannot take that away from the man. However, so we can't say it's wrong. What I can say is that, to me, it was a little bit, wee bit suspicious. Just a hair of suspicion to me, because you are a man. And I get it, right? Because he expressed in the beginning that he had his own dealing as a child, his own trauma with being abused and preyed upon by a woman. So this is not a gender specific issue at all. Anybody can be a predator, and unfortunately anybody can be a predator, and unfortunately anybody can get preyed upon. That is the unfortunate circumstance. Some people are just vile people. It is not gender specific. However, in this society, and just understanding and being aware, and also having a daughter, right? Like, it's not like this is a man with sons. Like, you have a daughter. So men talk about all the time how when they have a daughter, that immediately the way they look at the world changes, the way that they view women changes, the way that they respect women changes. Like, there's this understanding, there's this just, altering perception that you now have a woman. You have a total, complete, or not even total and complete, but just a general better understanding of women, because this one is the one that you are just solely meant to protect, right? So you as a father, not even just as a man, but you as a father to a daughter, I think, to me, choosing to be offended in that time maybe did you more harm than good. And now we're making inferences here. If you've ever seen the show Sherlock with Benedict Cumberbatch, that was on, I want to say A&E, but I could be wrong. It could have been on something else. But if you've ever seen that show, how he called him and his brother called it deductions, and they would just kind of deduce the situation to certain outcomes, make inferences that would be spot on. And that's how he was just such a great detective, because he was able to assess the situation and look at all the minor details that people might overlook, the small nuances, and just understand how a person got to a situation. He wasn't always right, but he was rarely ever wrong. So a lot of the time I try to do that. I'm not saying I'm a Sherlock Holmes, but I think a lot of the time in conversations, especially across social media, because the biggest way to get engagement is through storytelling, it is through expressing yourself and expressing your opinion. A lot of the time we may leave things out, because not even just because it makes us look bad, but we might have just forgot, or we just genuinely might not have remembered it that way, because that's how we were feeling at that time. So if in that moment he was offended, right, I can see maybe he was triggered. And that's not me saying that he was violent. That's not me saying that he was disrespectful. But maybe that triggered something in him, triggered a response, understandably so, especially because he mentioned his trauma, right? Not overlooking that. However, as a father with a daughter, talking to a mother with a daughter, expressing her concerns about protecting her daughter, it might not work in your favor to be offended, right? Maybe leading with understanding might have given you a more favorable and desired outcome. The reason I say that is because there were so many women from what I saw that were in the comments that said, why, even the woman, even the clip that we saw earlier, she said, why didn't, or she said she would have offered to throw the party, he pay for everything, he host it, and have the children there. And so many other women had that take. They said that's what they would have done. Why didn't any of the mothers do that? And that's crazy. He was just trying to do the right thing. And to me, again, I didn't see any posts like shaming or condemning him. Any comment that I saw that disagreed with him was simply, I disagree. I wouldn't send my daughter, but shout out to him for trying. It was pretty much that. Like, I wouldn't do it, but at least he trying to do something. Like, it wasn't just, oh, he's, like burn him at the stake. Like, nobody said anything like that from what I saw. So to me, it was very interesting that there were so many women in the comments that chose to vilify all the other mothers in this story. Like, they didn't even do anything. Like, what? They literally did nothing. I don't get it. Now, again, that is assuming that they did not spread lies of him being a pedophile. Now, if they did spread that mugshot and that arrest, that's not gossip. And that's not necessarily defamatory. That happened. Like, and that, unfortunately, is the cost of accountability. Like, your past follows you. Even when you want to do things like just be a good father to your daughter. Like, sometimes there will be obstacles that get in your way because of things that you may have done. So, yeah, I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. Like I said, I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here trying to say that this man is a bad man or a bad father or that he had evil intentions with those little girls. I will not let my brain think that, even though we know that the world is like that, right? It's genuinely so unfortunate, and my heart goes out to him for having to experience something like that. And just shame on all the predators out there. Keep your hands off of kids. Keep your hands off people in general. Touch yourself. Good Lord. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, good grief. But yeah, so that's my thing. I don't think that anyone in this situation was wrong. I don't think that father was wrong, and I don't think that those mothers were wrong for not volunteering to host that party. Y'all gotta stop saying that. Oh, and honestly, that's the whole reason why I want to jump on here. Because me personally, the entire reason I'm doing this channel is to retire from being a comment warrior, bro. Like, I gotta put these thoughts out here and voice my opinion, so y'all know I ain't no punk. I ain't scary. I ain't just no keyboard warrior. I got real thoughts out here. And I'm not a violent person. I'm not trying to radicalize people. I'm not trying to mobilize people. I'm not trying to right now start no movement or nothing like that. We just talking. We just chopping it up. These are just conversations that I plan to parlay into a whole bunch of other stuff. So, yeah. But anyway, I was in the comments just arguing with people because somebody said, like, why didn't the women do it? And I was just like, because they're not obligated to, because it's not their kid. And one girl called me ignorant. And how dare she? But whatever, that's the cost of arguing with people on the internet, is you get to spew, slurs and insults at people. Hey, I do it too, so shout out to her. We all participate in the game. But yeah, she was like, girl, you stupid. It takes a village. We all talking about a village. And that's pretty much the assortment of comments that I got was, it takes a village. We always preach in community, but when it's time to step up, nobody wants to step up. And I understand all of that. I do. However, here's what I would say. You have to look at relationships, right? You have to look at relationships kind of like your bank account. you in your bank account, you only have what you have. So you can only withdraw so much. And if you overdraw, you're going to be in the negative, right? You're going to be operating at a deficit. Nobody wants to operate at a deficit. So if you only put in $300 into your account, all you got is $300. So relationships are like that with people. So he might not have put in enough time to be able to withdraw that from someone and be able to kind of claim them as the village. And I understand what y'all are saying. I know in this perfect world, in this utopia that everybody likes to make up on social media, everybody just gives their shirt to a stranger. But we all know in real life that's not how it works. And not because people wouldn't love to do that, not because people can't be selfless and kind and compassionate and caring. There are more good people in the world than there are bad. That's why the world literally isn't like, and not just parts of it, the whole globe isn't literally on fire right now. Like, that's literally why. But the thing about that is there are people who can often take advantage of that. And I'm not saying that this man take advantage of that. And even in addition to that, there are people who don't have the time. We don't know what these mothers are doing. We don't know how many kids they got. We don't know they living situations. We don't know. You don't know anything. The same way we don't know anything about this man. We don't know anything about those women. To try to throw them under the bus because this man couldn't have a party for his daughter is crazy. And so I commented that. I was like, women don't always have to play the savior. And so women were like, that's not playing the savior. It's for the child. And my point, in addition to him not being wrong, because he's not wrong in wanting to have a party. If his genuine intention is wanting to have a sleepover for his daughter, nothing about that is wrong. Nothing about that is bad. So he should not, and I understand, but if his intentions were genuine, he should not take offense to someone being uncomfortable because his intentions were genuine. And I know that's easier said than done. However, to me, to immediately jump to defenses is suspicious. And it also raises the question of who else is in his village, right? Because that's the thing, like, villages, yeah, it's like a community, but everybody got their own village. Like, my village ain't your village ain't my village ain't, Keisha from down the street village or Dante or, Paul or whoever else. It's just your village is your village, and you earn that. You work for that. You don't just walk up into a village and get all your resources. Like, you got to sow some seeds. You got to plant some crops. You got to haul some buckets of water. Like, and again, I get it. We want that, but we don't have that. So it calls into question, why doesn't he have that? Right? I get it. You're a single father, and I know that tugs on the heartstrings of so many women. I know. But again, or not again, because y'all weren't there on Facebook, but I mentioned single father doesn't equal, mothers going on to be with him. It doesn't equal that. Where's the mom? Because just because she lives with the father doesn't mean that the mother's not there. So where is she? Why can't she help with the party? Okay, the mother's not in the picture. Fine. Does he have a mother? Where is she? Does he have a sister? Where is she? Does he have an aunt? Where is she? Does he have a grandmother? There is someone in his familial circle, in his social circle, that is a woman that could help him. So to me, the most suspicious thing about it was him being offended and choosing to go to social media to, I can't necessarily say it was his intention to make the women look bad, but we all know what society does to women when we bring them up in any situation. We scapegoat them, to smithereens. So it's just like that. That is the only thing I find suspicious. I don't find his actions to be suspicious other than that. His actions of wanting to host a sleepover, his actions of asking, I don't find any of that to be strange. I do find it to be strange that he got offended. Now, another thing that I want to talk about real quick is, it's just so interesting to me, right? Because there's just this duality on the internet of, like, people make it seem like one side is, all women hate men and men can't do anything right, can't ever get it right, and we just scratching and clawing to just get a crumb, and we just can't get anything. But then you got this other side of the internet that I see more often than not, where these men can, like, quite literally go Michael Ealy and For Color Girls, and women still be like, but give him another chance. And I'm not saying that's what he did. I'm just saying that those are, like, the extremes that those are the extreme actions that men will commit that women will protect. I just find that interesting, Like, I find it interesting that in that video, the premise was mothers protecting their daughters. especially because when things happen, one of the main questions to mothers is, how didn't you know? Like, why didn't you do anything? Like, how couldn't you tell? Like, it's always blaming them for not having the foresight, right? Even in a situation like that, foresight isn't necessarily like certain, right? Like, if the goal is protection, you're not absolutely sure that this is what someone is going to do, but just in case, you want to protect your child from it anyway, right? So I find it interesting that, like I said, yeah, when those things happen, we condemn and we judge and we question why didn't you know? Why didn't you do something? Why didn't you protect? Why didn't you have a tighter hold on that child? Why didn't you hold that child closer to you? Why didn't you pay more attention? Why weren't you more careful? Why weren't you more aware? Why weren't you more perceptive? You know, how could you be so naive? How could you be so gullible? But then in a circumstance where the foresight would genuinely just simply be to decline and say, no, thank you, they get villainized. Like, I genuinely find that interesting. And I find it interesting that women, mothers, I'm sure mothers of daughters, have that take the strongest. And I understand that it comes from a desire of, I won't necessarily say not having a father, but sometimes not having a father. But I would say more so just genuinely wanting to see men be good fathers, you know? I get that. But it doesn't have to be at a cost to anyone else. Like this man being able to have a sleepover for his daughter has nothing to do with like him having to throw it. Like, there were so many other alternatives that he could have done other than go to the internet. So in my opinion, I think that's the only place that you messed up, man. Not even you having that arrest record for domestic violence and child endangerment, because drug dealers and killers, they throw block parties and have daycares and be within the community with kids every day. And, you know, that don't mean that they don't have those children's best interests at heart. That doesn't mean that they are predators. That doesn't mean that they want to take advantage of those children. So I'm not going to hold that against you. What I will say is that it is strange that instead of you finding any other woman in your sphere of influence, in your circle, to help you facilitate these actions, you chose to get on the internet and complain about it. And it would have been a little bit different if you led from a place of understanding. I think if you would have just led from a place of understanding when you had that initial conversation with that mother, your entire outcome could have been different. I don't know if the party has happened. I don't know, when her birthday was, if it's passed, if it hasn't. I don't know if you were able to have it. But if you weren't and there's still time, I would just say revisit the conversation with all the mothers involved with a listening ear, from a place of understanding, and not necessarily because you've been through it, because you have been through it, but you've been on the other side. Just listen from their perspective, because you don't know what those mothers have been through. You don't know what those children have been through. You don't know what you can learn from it and how you all can come together and just moving forward, have a better understanding of everybody and build that community and build that village that I'm sure that you all ultimately would love to have. And also, real quick, as I get everything together before I prepare to edit all this, I find it very funny that literally everybody, even if you in support, basically said, I wouldn't send my daughter. I find that interesting. Even the young lady in the video that was in support said, I wouldn't send my child. And now, again, and I said this, just why do the women have to be the ones to volunteer it? If you, as a man, had I don't know what words I was trying to string together right there. But you as a man haven't had a similar experience like that in your childhood, a traumatic experience like that in your childhood, why didn't it even dawn on you to ask the mother in that way? And I know I mentioned that already, but I'm only saying it again because I just had to screen record the young lady's video to put it in here, and it made me think about it. And I guess what I'm trying to say because she went on to say that there are fathers out here who don't even do for their children. At least he's trying. Y'all got to be careful with that at least stuff when it's coming to these new age fathers. I know that we are giving a lot of grace to the fathers out here because, like you said, at least they're trying, right? But you got to be careful with that at least word, because least is just that, the least, right? And there's only so much of the minimum that you can take. There's only, you know, so much of the minimum that you can take before it's just simply not enough. And I want y'all to understand that piece of man mentality is not just for romantic relationships, okay? That is for family relationships, social relationships. Don't just accept a piece of man in any circumstance. And this ain't got nothing to do with this video, but that's just too, I don't like hearing that from anybody. At least. Give me the most. But real quick, just wanted to plug that in. So that's just my take on the situation. Let me know what y'all think. You know what I'm saying? Like, what do y'all think? Do y'all think he was in the right? Do y'all think he was in the wrong? Do y'all think the women were in the wrong? Do you think that any of the women should have felt compelled or obligated to throw the party? Like, you know, talk to me. Let me know what you think. All right, bye.